Today on the Gaming Gig podcast, we actually have our first guest, so give a warm Gaming Gig welcome to Zach and Elizabeth from Classic Co-op.
Cool. Well, thanks for having us, first of all. And tell them about our channel. You do it.
All right, so Zach here is a gaming expert, and he has a channel, and I met him, and he has great ideas for videos. And so what we do is we play all the co-op games we love and record all our footage and then write scripts together. And then we try to create grouping videos, so top 10 of a group of something or a genre or topic, and play through everything in that genre. So it's basically his vision, but I'm there because co-op.
Right. You guys have a website too, right?
Yeah, the website is, I started that probably like 7 years ago. And the idea is there's other websites like Co-Optimus, which is a great resource, but they're kind of lacking with the retro gaming aspect. So the goal is I wanted to compile a list where I'm actually going through, playing all these games, testing them out, and verifying that they're co-op. And I want it just to be like a comprehensive database of co-op gaming. So if you're like experimenting with some emulators or something and you have a list of ROMs, you're like, what should I play with my friend? Let's go here. Oh, okay. We got Game Boy. We got NES, 3DO, Atari Jaguar. These are the games. And then I'm also working on capturing footage for all of these games. That's what she's helping me with. And we're doing videos about them. But I want to be able to demonstrate when someone clicks on it, they could see a video of a game, just gameplay footage as well. But I just wanted to, there's like a lack of information out there for those games specifically. Like there's inaccurate information that I see a lot of the time. So I'm just trying to put it all together, and it's mostly just for myself. So when I'm playing games, I can reference it myself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's one of my favorite parts about your channel is that you're so thorough with the retro games. I mean, I maybe not from a co-op perspective, but I've always loved retro games, specifically handheld retro games. But
Yeah.
I just think that's awesome that you're going all the way back.
Yeah, that was kind of the origin of the channel. Wanted to focus on that, but there's also just a lot of new games coming out that I love that I want to cover. But as you see, when you're playing modern co-op games, there's kind of a lack of local co-op in the like AAA area of gaming. So a lot of the games we play that are new are retro inspired. They're all like 8-bit, 16-bit looking type of games. Anyway, so across the board, we're kind of playing just a lot of retro games or retro styled games, but that's not, we'll play anything that's local co-op. That's the focus.
With such a broad range of experience with these local co-op games, what makes a good co-op game? What do you look for?
We were just talking about this, so you tell them.
Okay, so what we do is we categorize co-op games in 3 categories. The first category is like the second player is an assist character. So those are games where, you know, you might have a small role as the second player, but you're not in equal position. And usually you're invincible or something, and you just float around behind scenes. And then the second category we call like the battle co-op. Beat 'em ups, you're doing Hyrule Warriors, you know, you're on a mission together side by side. You have the same general skills. You might have unique skills to each player, but you're on a mission. One of you can die or like get out of the game for a bit. You jump back in. The other person can keep going without you. And then the third category is like actual cooperation. So there's puzzles that require both of you to stand on switches or, you know, swing across. Like It Takes Two. What are other big cooperative games?
A Way Out, basically the games that team made. I think all 3 of those types of co-op can be done effectively.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Even an assist, like I think, like Bowser's Fury, I think is a terrible one.
Yeah, that one was one that we tried. Me and Catherine tried, and it was like we tried it in a few minutes, and we were like, "This is it's awful. It's like almost unplayably bad.
I played that second player and it was just we beat the whole thing and I was like, oh my god, yes, we worked and I was like, this is a game for our kids to play with us.
Yes.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
Yeah, Randy and I have talked about how like certain co-op games are like you said, they seem geared towards like a kid playing with you so they can't mess you up, or throw the controller to a little brother who's being a pest, And I was curious, because you mentioned Bowser's Fury, I was curious what you guys thought about Odyssey's co-op mode, because I actually just started a playthrough of that with my girlfriend.
We haven't played it together. She hasn't played
together.
it, but I played through the whole game co-op with my brother when it came out, and I actually really enjoyed it. I thought that would have been my example, like an assist co-op mode that's actually good, I think. Where
I agree.
Cappy is like actually a very important part. He can fight the enemies, he can collect things, he can be used as like a spring to bounce up. Like he's very involved in the whole experience, and he can't die, but so it's still not equal, but I think it's still a much more enjoyable assist mode than Bowser's Fury.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely.
But then there's also like the most like retro games. That's kind of like the side-by-side co-op where you have the same goal, but you're not necessarily working together. You can come up with your own strategies, but it's not like required to move forward. And those are great. Like I think of like Contra or any old beat 'em up, or like pretty much any old school co-op game you could think of. That's how it is. And then there's the ones like It Takes Two where you have to work together, and that's like the best experience if it's built from the ground up to be a co-op game.
Right.
Yeah,
And there's so few of those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. And
Did you guys beat Contra?
Not without cheat codes.
That was going to be my next question.
No, I've never been able to. That's not a game I'm very good at, but I love it.
It's brutal.
Yeah, it is.
So I realize as we're yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Oh, I was just gonna say, like, in that idea of what makes a good co-op game, all three of those categories can be good. I think preferences are different for everyone. For me, there are times I do love like Hyrule Warrior Battle, whatever it's called. So when you are doing that battle side by side in that game, or the cooperative games, but I definitely prefer cooperative. Real co-op experience. Each person is required to be there, especially for me, because even though I've gamed a lot my whole life, I'm still sometimes, depends on the game, but I'm not as good as Zach, and so I hate it when he's like way ahead of me, or you know what I mean. So if we have to do stuff together, I'm like, yeah, I have a strong role here too. I love that experience. We have to, I'm required to be here too. I feel like really part of it. So those are my favorite, but I think everyone has different preferences for their category.
I kind of want to talk about like what brought you guys to co-op, like to focus so much on co-op gaming in the first place, and what makes co-op gaming such a different experience than playing a game by yourself or solo.
Well, for me, I just grew up Sega Genesis. That was my very first console when I was a kid. So I have a sister who's 2 years younger than me, and the first games we had were Double Dragon and Sonic the Hedgehog 2. And I loved Sonic 2. It's still one of my favorite games, but the co-op in that is not great for a second player. So Tails, he just gets left in the dust and it's almost unplayable until you get to a boss fight. So I just remember thinking when I was a kid, the two of us, we'd be like, all right, we got to find a game. I didn't know the term co-op. So I was like, we got to find a game. We're playing at the same time together, and we're on the screen at the same time together, and we're not getting split apart. So then we just started like renting games, trying to find anything. We'd look at the back of the box, and on Genesis specifically, it'd say 1 to 2 players. And then we'd be like looking at the little thumbnails. Do you think we work together on this? I don't know. Let's try it. So we just rent a ton of games. And that just kind of built my obsession. Just basically, I wanted to have games that I could play with my sister. And then I have a younger brother, same thing. So basically from then, when I was like early teenager, I started experimenting with like emulators and ROMs. So then I'd have access to like literally every game ever. And I'm just compiling lists over and over of the co-op games that I want to play. So it was just like an early obsession for me, wanting to. I've always compiled these lists. That was like the beginning of my website, basically back then. Just working on putting these lists together, Googling stuff, and just testing the games out, renting them from Blockbuster or whatever.
And then for me, like I have a similar story. I have a brother who's 2 years younger than me. And so we grew up with NES and playing Mario all the time. And my parents would have like their college students over. So I'd, play NES. I was 3-year-old Mario with them. And so my brother and I, growing up, we were always playing video games, all co-op. Any sort of co-op game we could get our hands on, we had. And then I didn't compile any lists. I just played the games. So it's just a part of my life since I was really, really small. And I love gaming just as an experience with the people I love.
That's awesome.
That is awesome.
So you guys have a lot of experience with, you played so many different co-op games. And I'm wondering if you've noticed a trend in how co-op gaming has evolved and how it's changed around. And is there a big difference between like retro co-op games versus modern co-op games? How do they compare and how are they different?
Do you have anything?
Yeah, I want to talk about one aspect, and then obviously I don't know as much about retro games as Zach does, so that's his area. But I will say one thing we love about the evolution of co-op games into the modern age is the games we love the most are the ones that tell stories, especially personal stories, maybe of, loss or struggle or, dealing with cancer. We're playing a game about that now. And it might even be a non-human story like Hyrule Warriors. I bring this up a lot. I obviously love that game, but it's a story. And I think that's one thing that modern games are great at. They're telling more of a story through the game that you're experiencing in real time compared to retro games. But there are some struggles that modern games have that retro games do really well, which you would know about.
Yeah. I mean, I think with the decrease with co-op gaming, I think really started in the 5th generation of video game consoles, which was PS1, Sega Saturn, and Nintendo 64. And that's because I was making the transition from 2D to 3D. And it's just like, once things got to 3D, even single-player games, it took forever for them to figure out how to use a camera effectively. It was just so clunky for a long time. But just thinking about adding co-op into that, it's just, I don't think they knew how to do it. So you just saw a lot less co-op games starting at that point. And then we would see more split-screen games eventually, but those early 3D games, there was just like a big decrease, I think, where like the hardware wasn't really strong enough to support split-screen in a lot of those games without taking a huge hit with the frame rate. So, like, from what I've heard, like, Mario 64 was supposed to be a co-op game originally, where you could be Mario and Luigi. Yeah.
What?
Yeah. And I heard that it was, I don't know if they were going to try to make it split screen or something, but they basically scrapped the idea just because hardware limitations. So, I feel like that's the big change. And then still to this day, you don't see a lot of, especially like local co-op games that are 3D and co-op. They exist, but it's like very few and far between, especially if it's like a big AAA game. You have like Gears of War, those games, and then It Takes Two. Yeah. But they really took they moved over to like online, and then still even just online co-op, really we're mostly like competitive, it seems, these days. So there's
very few like actual cooperative. There are just like competitive multiplayers is what it really is, which is that's something I didn't write down here, but I'm interested in your thoughts on, do you make a distinction between like a multiplayer game and a co-op game when you're kind of looking into this stuff and compiling your lists and things?
Yeah, I try to. The games that we play, I want them to be specifically cooperative, where we're on the same team. But I mean, I enjoy competitive games as well. But I try to specifically only talk about the games where the intended gameplay is you working together, or being on the same team with the same goal.
Right.
Yeah, I also wanted to touch on something that Elizabeth said. You said that you felt like modern games versus retro games did a better job of telling a story, which for the most part I completely agree with. And that made me think of like some of these new games made by these indie developers that you guys were talking about that are 8-bit or 16-bit inspired, and how I feel like, are bringing that in to the retro style. And I don't, like, some games that came to mind, and I don't know if they have co-op modes, but The Messenger and Celeste came to mind immediately, because they tell great stories and they're clearly retro inspired.
Yeah, and that is a thing with modern co-op, not just co-op, but modern gaming in general. You just see a lot more depth, I think, with emotional depth and storytelling, and more. They're just like a deeper form of storytelling.
Mm-hmm. And they might have social commentary. They might, be specifically trying to represent a group of people and telling their story, compared to the retro games, which are also great, but it's like fun, Mickey Mouse,
But the story's like, tucked away in the manual somewhere, there's not a...
Right.
Oh, man.
But there are, like you said, those type of games. We're actually doing a video that's supposed to be, we're almost done capturing footage for it, but it's supposed to be, the topic is art games. So that could be interpreted in a lot of different ways, but our interpretation of an art game is basically like a game told with like kind of a cryptic story and an emotional core.
Very little dialogue.
Yeah.
Usually lots of music, or a specific choice for no music, like silence.
Yes. So we're thinking of like Shadow of the Colossus and Eco and Journey and Inside, those type of games. So
But co-op versions.
So we're trying to find co-op games that are art games, and that's the next video we're working on. And all of them, for the most part, have like a good emotional core to them. They talk about some deeper issues, topics, and there's just a lot more depth. So that's been a fun project, just looking for those type of games that are co-op.
They're our favorite games.
Yeah.
We love them the most.
So,
Danny, you want to get this next question?
Yeah, so I feel like I may have an idea how you're going to respond to this, but I certainly won't steal your thunder here. But we're curious about, do you think co-op gaming is getting better, or do you think it's getting worse, or I suppose do you think it's stagnated? But who wants to give that answer? That's a boring answer.
I think in some ways it's getting better in the way that we just described. There's more. First of all, there's way more developers. There's way more ways to put a game out.
Yep.
So we have access to games that we never would have had access to before with Steam and all the other platforms. Basically, Nintendo Switch has so many indie games. Basically, people can put their indie games out on multiple platforms now. So I don't know if it's better.
Like game mechanics.
Yeah, I think the games that do come out are more thoughtful, and they are figuring out new ways to make co-op interesting. It's just the co-op games that are out there, there's plenty of them. You just got to dig deeper for them, and it's harder to find them. In the mainstream gaming area, it's definitely worse. That's just objectively true, I think. Other than Nintendo. Nintendo is still consistently putting out co-op games. Local co-op. There's just there's no one else in the AAA area that is really focusing on local co-op at all. If they do, it's kind of like a one-off.
Speaking of, we kind of just gotten into this, where we're talking about like right now, you say in the Switch, and Nintendo has a lot of these co-op games. Is there any console that you think is like the best for co-op gaming? Like say someone wanted to get into co-op gaming, where should they invest their, time and money?
Yeah, I say Switch. Nintendo Switch is the best to start with. Like if you're just starting. I mean, in my adult life, that's the only console I've had. When Switch came out, that's what I got, and that served me well until I met this guy and had someone to play games with. So I think that they've done the best with Switch. You can travel with it, play co-op. You can, connect online and whatever through it. It's great and accessible for everyone.
Yeah. I think Switch, and I mean, saying Steam is kind of a cheat because that's everything basically, but for sure those. But I think specifically like NES, Sega Genesis, and Super Nintendo, I think those are like the golden era of co-op gaming. Just is so much easier, I think, for them to make like a side-scrolling game and then just be like, all right, yeah, let's add another guy in there. Now you can play two-player. So it was less thoughtful, but it was just more common back then. And then obviously with arcade games as well. So I think those are my go-to for co-op. That's what I love, that era, as well as even Sega Saturn and PlayStation 1. Even though they're making the transition to 3D, there's a lot of great 2D games that were less popular that were co-op that I think some of those like hold up really well. That it was just like 32-bit 2D games are some of the most beautiful games you'll ever see. They really fine-tuned the pixel art at that point. Some of them.
So the next question we had, and you may not even be able to narrow this down. I mean, it'd be like asking you to pick one of your babies, but we're curious. Maybe you have a favorite baby. I don't know. We're curious what your favorite co-op game you played this year so far is, or even in the past 12 months. Who cares? Let's get crazy.
Yeah.
Like as far as co-op games that actually came out this year, we've only played like a few. Do you know what they are?
Kirby, of course. What was the other one? Oh, the Kamikaze Veggies, that really small indie game.
Yeah, that's an interesting game. It's worth checking out. It's interesting.
Yeah. So I think there's only new games, like 2022 games we've played so far.
But what's our favorite games
that we've been playing?
Just in general? Like, I mean, It Takes Two.
Yeah.
I think at this point, It Takes Two is like the gold standard for co-op at this point. I don't think anything is better than that.
I was so happy when it won Game of the Year.
Me too, yeah.
It's exciting to see.
That's what makes me optimistic, because that game got a lot of attention. So I'm hoping people will catch on and be like, yeah, we should probably do more of that. Mm-hmm. So
I think, and that was what we talked about back when we were covering it on our channel. We were talking about how excited we were because it won Game of the Year. It's like, hopefully this encourages more people to make these dedicated, from ground up co-op games that are meant to be played in co-op.
Yes.
Even with better stories, like stronger stories and different art styles, it would be really cool to see more of those. I mean, that's what we want.
What are some other games that are your favorite that we played?
We played this game called Arise, and it's a co-op game where one of you is playing this old man guy, and the other person is playing nature, like moving nature around him. And I love this game because of the story and the art style. So it's a very 3D art style, but the story that they're telling is kind of his life story with him and his partner and how they meet each other. But the meat of the story is their experience with child loss as a couple. And, they're expecting a child and the baby dies. And then they go through this process of grief. And it's just such a beautifully done story because they give you the experience of grief of losing a child in such a powerful way, just with nature, with this, as he's traveling through, there's like these shadow versions of himself that appear all around, and he has to maneuver to the light to make his way on the path, and is a really emotional story. And I've experienced miscarriage, and so for me, it was an emotionally healing game. I was crying the whole game, and the style and the art and just the storytelling. There's no dialogue whatsoever, just beautiful music, beautiful scenes, powerful scenes. And yeah, that's my favorite game that I've played this year. I just think about it all the time because the story was so powerful and so well done. Just a small game.
Yeah, I love those games that just stick with you and you just like keep talking about it after you're done and you keep thinking about it.
Yes.
That's when you know it's, yeah, and you don't run across many games that do that. I can only think of a handful of games that I've played in my entire life that have done that. Like once I finished, I just kept, running it through my head, and it was just like so powerful.
Yeah. I mean, the only one I can really think of immediately is like the Last of Us series. That stuck with me. I want to replay it like right now, and I can't, or I won't play anything else. I can't just keep replaying The Last of Us.
Yeah. The Last of Us 2, yeah. Like I felt depressed for probably like 2 weeks after I beat that game.
Oh
Depressed in the best way.
I mean,
Yeah.
I don't want to ruin anything in case somebody happens to see this and has not played that game. So I'm not going to say any spoilers, but there's a big thing that happens early on, and we all know what it is. And I played that right before I went over to Randy's house to leave to go play a gig. And I walked in his living room. Yeah, I walked in and he was like, "What's up, man?" And I was like, "Ugh, nothing." I was just like visibly upset. He was like, "Dude, you shouldn't have played that before we went to play this gig." And I was like, "How was I supposed to know, Randy?"
Yeah.
You just ruined the gig.
Couldn't play a note.
It's time to be upbeat. All right, go.
Yeah. We did 3 hours of straight blues.
Oh. Yeah.
Yeah, the blues.
So, I guess we'll go ahead and move on to the next segment of the podcast here. We did a poll on our channel, and we asked, kind of our subscribers, or actually, I guess anyone who participates in the polls. I don't know if it's subscribers or not.
Subscribe, people.
And they said, and the question was, have you played a local/couch co-op game this year? And the results I thought were just like, this happens occasionally where like the world is in perfect balance. And it was exactly 50-50 yes and no. So half the people that voted in the poll said yes, they have played a local co-op game this year, and half the people said no. So
that's so interesting.
Yeah. I mean, and we have we're only dealing with our audience in terms of things, but they're generally our audience are gamers. And, it's interesting that only about half of gamers are playing co-op games, or have in the past year or this year. Actually, it was this year. So we're not even halfway through the year. So they've still got time.
But that's the thing that's it's tricky, like as an adult person to find people to play games with in the same room, unless you have a partner or kids. It's just that I understand why online gaming is more popular, but it's not like when you were kids and you had siblings to play with. So
the siblings you're bored, and what do? Video games all day, every day.
Yeah.
When you're kids.
Yes.
And I'm sure if the question had been, have you played an online multiplayer game, like it would have been like overwhelmingly yes.
Yeah, it would have been like 99 and more.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. That's why I feel so lucky to have a partner that wants to play video games with me. It's so nice.
You're welcome.
Like every week we play video games, and I wouldn't be able to do this channel at all without her, because I literally need a partner. So I can having like a I've been wanting to do this for so long, and I just for a long time didn't have anyone that I could work with consistently, because it's like hang out with my friends every few weeks or something, and then can't really accomplish much there.
No, and we kind of briefly talked about this earlier when we were talking about like the co-op experience versus the solo experience, but there's just something about sharing a game with someone else that is just it it fulfills you in a way that's very different than traditional just playing video games. You know, it's very different.
Yep. And also, I mean, I think it's good for a relationship if you're both on the same page and want to play games together. So you don't have, one guy that's just playing video games by himself, ignoring their spouse all the time. We don't have that problem because we just play video games together. So
yeah,
nice.
100%.
That is awesome.
Like that's something that, I think is probably a very common thing that comes up in relationships. Or if one of you's not into video games and the other one's like really into video games, it's going to seem like the person who's into it is like obsessed and that's all they care about. But once you start sharing the experience, then it's not it's not a problem anymore. Now it's just fun. Everyone's just, it's like when you sit and, watch a TV show together. It's the same sort of thing,
Exactly.
And thinking back to when we were kids and we were on N64 playing, obviously it's a different grouping of co-op, but Mario Kart or the Mario Party. Like for me, Mario Kart, Mario Party as a kid, just like having my brothers or, my brother and our neighbor friends all hanging out playing 4-player games or 2-player games or whatever. It just like, that's the best experience for video games. It's so fun and so nostalgic. We all have been playing video games since we were so little. And that's why Nintendo is very smart, because they are tapping into that nostalgia from the beginning, and they want to, stay in that realm where they have our group playing experience going for all of us. And yeah, it's just, of course, playing solo video games is great too. Obviously, I've been doing that for many, many years, 10 plus years, my whole adult life, but co-op is just next level, more enjoyable.
It's funny you mentioning those, Nintendo obviously hits that nostalgia harder than anybody. And, you mentioned the Mario Party and the Mario Kart, and obviously I played those to death. But really for me, what I, still to this day am completely hopelessly addicted to is Super Smash Brothers, which is maybe not as co-op, because while maybe some people have fond memories of working together, to make it through the level. I have fond memories of just like trying to make my friends cry, just
destroying my brother,
beating them down.
Oh yeah.
And I still do it as often as they'll let me to this day.
That's awesome.
That's a sign of a true friendship.
Right.
Well, Daniel, you want to move into the comments on this poll?
Yeah. So we got us a long time commenter here, Heather Cook. And she mentioned something that I was very glad to see get mentioned. She said, last month my brother visited for a week. We played a bunch of the Halo games split screen. The night we played through the entire Reach campaign together in one go was so much fun. We didn't care that we were up till 3 a.m. And if you haven't played Halo split screen until 3 a.m., have you really lived?
Exactly.
What are y'all thoughts? My wife and I played not too long ago, probably in the past 6 months or so. We played Halo 1 and 2 in co-op. And I was wondering y'all's thoughts, if you had played through any of the Halo stuff in co-op, and what'd you think about it?
We haven't played together. I've played some Halo with friends before, but I haven't really ventured into Halo worlds yet, and especially not together.
Yeah, it's on the list. We'll have to eventually.
We have such a long list.
I played Halo 1 and 2 a ton on the original Xbox. So Halo 2, that was like, we would have Halo parties, all my friends, and connect the Xboxes and just have these big competitions. That was a big deal for me in like middle school, high school, I guess. And but I didn't really keep up with Halo after that. I later went back and played those ones, but those first two were a huge deal for me when I was a kid, and the co-op too.
Yeah, did you do the campaign co-op?
Yep.
Yeah.
On the first one specifically, I remember did you ever have Xbox Magazine?
No.
You know anything about that? Well, so when the original Xbox was out, they had Xbox Magazine, and it came with a demo disc in each one. And then, so it'd have like previews and demos of games. And I just remember there was a demo for the first Halo. It was just one level. I forget what the level's called, but anyway, I played that demo over and over and I memorized it. So then when I finally got the full game, I just remember my friend and I, we kind of like slowly made our way through it. Then we got to that level that we played a million times and we just cruised through it like perfectly and then progressed through the rest of the game after that. But we just played that so many times.
So I'm going to move on to the next comment on this poll, and it is from Roy Ryan. Roy says, unbelievably, yes, saying that he has played a game. Recently, the company I work for announced they are creating an esports team. So in one of their office, they've created an esports arena. I went to check it out, and wouldn't you know, there's a bunch of guys there about to start playing some Super Smash Bros. It was awesome. First time playing with real people in years. So there you go. Smash
Roy,
still bringing people together, Daniel.
living the dream, buddy.
Yeah.
Dang, his company making an esports team. Like, I mean, you guys know I work in a school, and I'm actually one of our esports coaches, but I don't get to play.
Oh, man.
I know. I mean, I get to play.
You get to play. You
I play the
against
kids. I do play the kids, like, but no, I don't get to play in the matches. Is what I mean. I'm living
No, you don't
completely
get to-
vicariously through them. And if I can brag for a moment, which I will, our Mario Kart team got 8th in the entire East Coast last year,
Oh.
and that was the first year that Georgia had Mario Kart, or maybe first year they were allowed to do Mario Kart. Period.
It was the first year, yeah, because they just
Yeah.
they just introduced it. Nintendo just let it be part of the what's the program?
GHSA.
Yeah, okay.
Or maybe, well, there's two like governing bodies for us. There's GHSA, which handles like all the Georgia school sports, and then there's Play VS, which is what
Play
the
VS, that's
esports
the
runs
one
through.
that Mario Kart just got added into Play VS. If I'm not mistaken, it just got added this past this most recent season.
Yeah, so they got 8th in the East Coast. We had our Splatoon team. I think maybe got put out in first round of the playoffs. Smash got top 16 in the state. And Rocket League got second in the state for like the second time in a row. Those guys are amazing.
It's awesome.
Humble brag.
That's great.
Yeah. So Daniel, you knew this last comment?
Absolutely. So
This
we have
is my favorite one.
yeah, this is Shadows, and I'm going to assume this is Roman numerals, but I'm sorry, buddy, I ain't got you on this. Shadows DCLXVI said, I haven't, and now I feel sad. Thanks. And we just want you to know, Shadows, that you're welcome.
There's still time. There's still time. You got half a year left. Track somebody down and play a local co-op game.
Yeah, the year is young, buddy.
Finally, the last thing we always like to do is talk about what games we've been playing this past week and kind of, talk about how we're enjoying them or whatever. So what games you guys been playing this week?
Well, we're almost finished playing Hyper Light Drifter.
Oh,
Like
cool.
retro inspired. Okay, you know.
Art game.
Yeah, retro inspired art game. Exactly. That's what we're working on.
For the video. Yeah.
So, just the story, him sharing his experience dealing with fighting cancer through a really amazing art style, pixel art game. And so that's what we're playing right now.
We're playing that. Every week we play Mario 3D World with
With our kids.
our kids. We have, 2 4-year-olds now
Yeah.
and 2 girls. And my daughter specifically, she's always, she's just obsessed with Mario right now. Mm-hmm. And she always wants to play. She just wants to play Mario 3D World constantly. So we are pretty sick of that game, but we play it every week.
We've almost gathered all the stars.
Yeah.
nice.
I personally love 3D World. I love that. I mean, if
Yeah.
if I had to play it every week, I'd probably get tired of it. But I love the co-op in that game because it's just so even. You have different characters that do different things, but like everyone has the same objective. And I love that it's like this perfect combination of being cooperative, but also has that little bit of competitiveness where it ranks up your points at the end, and it just like so cool.
I mean, we love the game, but playing it with a 4-year-old, it's not fun.
Wanna,
Let's just put it that
I
way.
want to describe this to you. So when you have 2 4-year-olds playing characters. So there's, you know, the 4 of you in there, and it's wild and crazy, and they're just jumping around. So they hit you with their heads, and then they fling you off, and you die. So pretty much it's just, or they don't know how to jump over some stuff. So it's just like they're constantly dying, right? And you're trying to keep going to the goal, but they lose all of the lives, and so there's a 0 on the screen. And you're like, if we die now, we're out. And it's like chaos. We're gonna share sometime our footage of Mario 3D World playing with 2 kids. It's like, I cannot describe the chaos to you. We're just jumping around, falling off the side.
And the camera gets really
Oh yeah.
the camera gets really confused. So like we'll be moving forward and then it'll just for some reason follow
One
back
of the kids.
one of the kids.
Yeah.
And then we get put into a bubble and the kids die and then we lose.
Yeah, it happens like every day.
It's really stressful, to be honest. Not fun at all.
So yeah, it's a very different experience for us.
It may not be
But-
fun to do, but I bet it'd be fun to watch.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, we'll share it sometime. We recorded some.
We played some other games too. Eternal Castle. Have you heard of that?
I haven't.
It's a really cool game. It's
Really
like
unique.
it's supposed to look like an 8-bit computer. I don't even know what computer it's trying to look like. Not Commodore 64, but something around that time. And it's just very simplistic art style and visuals, but it's great.
Like a very dark, interesting storyline, and yeah, just we'll show the footage. It'll be in the art video, so you can see it. It's so good. It's really unique.
Those are the main ones. But
Yeah, we've been
what
playing.
games have you guys been playing?
Daniel, you want
wanna-
to go first?
Sure, man. I mean,
Other
since
than
you twisted my
do
arm. Yeah. So I actually just finished another battle in Triangle Strategy. So I'm getting close-ish to the end of that game. Been working on that one a while, but now that I'm about to have more free time, I'm about to power through
Right.
it.
That's like the Octopath Traveler sequel or spin-off, or is that what it is?
It's from Square, like Octopath, and it's in that same, I think they call it HD 2D art style.
Right.
It's in their same engine.
Yeah, but it's not a
HGTV
sequel.
engine,
An Octopath was like a more traditional JRPG, turn-based, like the old Final Fantasies and things like that. This is a top-down strategy RPG. So more akin to Final Fantasy Tactics or Fire Emblem or something like that. Tactics Ogre. I've heard a lot of people compare it to that.
Nice.
So I'm playing that, and it's great. It's just taking me a minute to get through. I'm also consistently playing Super Smash Brothers, as we touched on.
Nice.
I even brought that. We had our last 2 days of school with kids this week, and the last 2 days were final exams. So it was like you do your finals for the first half of the day, and then the last half of the day it's pretty chill. So I brought my Switch and just whooped up on kids in Smash all day. So that was a good time.
Good time, yeah.
Still playing through X4, like I mentioned. Never played that one before. I played X 1, 2, and 3 at least in some capacity before, but never 4, so that's fun. And let's see. Besides that, it might just be Sea of Thieves, which we're always playing.
Oh, and you started playing Odyssey, remember?
Oh, yes, I am doing the co-op playthrough of Odyssey with Kim. That is true. We've only been able to do that once, but we're looking forward to doing it again. And in fact, I convinced her to buy a Switch, so pretty excited about that. And she even got the OLED, so I'm very excited.
Oh, cool. I haven't seen that in person yet. Is it?
Awesome.
It's super nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really great. Both Daniel and I took advantage of the GameStop trade-in program because they would. They gave us. Daniel, do you remember the number of how much they gave us for our old Switches? Wasn't it like $200?
It was like it was about $200, I think. But I actually didn't take advantage of that. If you remember, I actually sold it.
You're right. You sold it to someone else.
I sold it to a teacher whose son needed a Switch, so I sold it to her at bro price. So.
You know what? And I realized it wasn't it was $250 because I remember they gave me $250 for my old Switch because I remember it cost me exactly $100 to upgrade to the OLED. Which
that's nice.
That's a steal.
yeah. And here's another thing that GameStop doesn't tell you. You get the points for when you buy stuff. You get like a point per dollar or something. I don't know. When you trade something in, they give you the points for your trade in, which doesn't make any sense, but they do. So you get like double points because you buy the OLED and then you trade the other in, so you get points for both those. It's crazy.
Oh yeah, that's sweet.
Yeah, what a great deal, right? The only thing is, I'm sad I got rid of my original Switch, but the OLED's so nice. I'm not going to miss the other one too much, but I would like to have the collection.
You know, I'm sad to not have mine anymore because I would have loved to like try to mod it and like jailbreak that bad boy. You know.
I know. Being able to play anything handheld, it's a great opportunity.
Well, games
what you
I'm
playing,
playing right
Randall?
now is you're about to hit me up, Daniel. I'm currently playing. I'm really really deep into Death Stranding right now.
Yeah.
So I'm giving that one a go. That is such a. I think I mentioned this last week on the podcast that it's so different. You know, that's what's really nice about it. It's very refreshing because the game is so very different than any game I've ever played before. So even though I you know, I don't know, you know, I'm not done with it yet and I really haven't fully formed my opinions on it. But, you know, even if it doesn't go down as being like the best game I've ever played or anything, it still will be, it's so unique that it's just so refreshing to play something different. So I'm doing that. And then I'm playing Vader Immortal on VR right now. I'm playing that on PSVR. So I try to keep a VR game going at all times, like one, you know, if not all the time, I sprinkle them in pretty often. Really into VR stuff. So that's my VR game right now. And then let me think what else. Other than that, I think I finished a game this week because I don't remember what it was. Well, it doesn't really matter. But co-op wise, my wife and I, we always play a game every night before we go to bed. We sit down for about an hour and we play games together. And the one we've been playing for the last many weeks, if not now many months, is Stardew Valley. So we've been playing Stardew Valley in co-op. And that's
awesome.
Have you guys tried that one in co-op yet?
Yeah.
Yeah, we have.
Just very little amount, but it's just like we have so many games we're trying to get through.
And that one's endless. There's no end to it, you know. There's like, because there's no like set, you know, path you got to take and things you got to get done. It's just very open-ended. You could literally play it forever. And I guess like we're eventually going to have to be like, okay, I guess we're done now. But so far we haven't gotten tired of it yet. And we're probably, we've been playing it for, now that I think about it, we have to have been playing it for months because I want to say we're, you know, at least like, probably at least 30 hours into it. So at least a month we've been playing it.
Have you really? I feel like it hasn't been that long since you started Stardew with Catherine.
No, it's been a while, man.
Time flies.
Yeah, it does. Well, guys, thank you so much for being on the podcast today. I really enjoyed talking to you guys, and you know, I'm sure our audience will love your stuff. And we'll, again, before we go, let people know where they can find your stuff.
Yes.
You could find us on YouTube as Classic Co-op. We also have a gameplay channel called Classic Co-op Gameplay. And the purpose of that, well, it's mostly so I can just archive the gameplay footage for my website. But also, I have it in the description written that it's all, people can use that footage for whatever they want for their videos or website or whatever. I don't care, and you don't have to give me credit. It's just available for anybody if you want it. And our website, classiccoop.com, it's outdated. I need to update it. And that's about it.
Yep.
We'll make sure to provide links to all your stuff in whatever videos we post.
Cool. Real quick, I wanted to mention there's a handful of other co-op channels that are smaller that I do. We're in a community that we talk to, and if you like our channel, you would love their channels. There's this channel called Quack Duck. They're smaller. They're another couple. They just do really good in-depth reviews, and they're always co-op, mostly indie games. There's a channel called Co-op Company. They're a young couple with a lot of energy, and they do really great videos. They mostly talk about like really family-friendly co-op games. We Heart Co-op. They're the ones that are most similar to us, I think.
Yeah.
And they're another couple. And there's a guy from UK called Couch Coop. He's great. He's been going around for a long time. And one more that I'm trying to remember is the Co-op Bros. They're like a bigger channel, but like they they talk about all sorts of co-op games, not just local stuff, but they're great too. Those are all our buddies that we talk to in a community. So just wanted to give them a shout out. If you like our channel, check them out too.
Yeah, very
That's
cool.
awesome. Yeah.
Cool.
All right. Well, we don't have to get off the call right now, but I think we're going to end the podcast. So
Got it.
until next time, guys, I'm Randy.
And I'm Daniel.
And you guys are Classic Co-op.
I wasn't sure. I was like, I'm gonna serve it up, see if they take the bait.
We're classic co-op. 1, 2.
We're Classic Co-op.
There you go.
That's what I'm talking about.
And until next time, guys.
Cool. Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for joining us.